how many episodes do you have to shoot, and how does that work? Is that like shooting back-to-back movies, or?
The way Breaking Bad worked was kind of almost a traditional model of you doing one episode at a time.
Okay.
Sometimes now they're doing 2 episodes at a time. That's called crossboarding, where you treat both episodes under one director as kind of a single movie. And even now we're doing, started with, I think, I may get the name wrong. Was it True Confessions or True Crime?
True Crime?
True Crime. Yeah, that started one director doing 8 episodes, which were fully cross-boarded.
Sorry, True Detectives, you're correct.
True Detectives, yeah. And that's a very difficult model. But basically, what happens is the writers start writing a couple of months ahead of production. And the first thing they have to decide is, what's the arc of the entire season? Where are we going to wind up? And then they kind of break that down into beats, and then each of those beats becomes an episode. And then they break each of those beats down. And you call it breaking it down. They actually write on, they sit in a room, and there's one person taking notes, and all the writers are talking ideas. And as the ideas start kind of riffing and coalescing, once they get the idea for a scene, it's written on a 4x6 card and put on a corkboard. And you build your act structure just like that. And I have pictures of those corkboards, because I thought they were, I pretty quickly figured this might be a very important show. So I made sure the corkboards were there. Then that episode is given to one of the writers in the room, who goes away and then comes back with a draft. And then that draft gets worked on by the group. And finally, after a couple of other iterations, it goes to Vince for his, we used to say it goes through his typewriter, then nobody has a typewriter anymore. Right. And at the same time, you're starting to get notes from the studio. Okay, so once the script starts coming out, even in the outline form, I'm beginning to get word of what they're going to need. Locations is starting to work. Our wardrobe people are starting to work once we know we have our cast. Bryan Cranston wasn't cast until 2 weeks in front of the production. Wow. So some of this comes later on. The director shows up 8 days in front of the show before you start shooting. And immediately you start having meetings to get, now remember, the director is freelance. He's only going to do that episode for maybe out of the whole season. So Vince has the vision of the whole show. Vince has to help the director kind of get the vision, because each episode has to absolutely connect with the one that went before and the one that's going after. And that's part of that responsibility. At the same time, I'm running, getting the locations, the local casting, the extras, taking care, of the construction, determining which sets are going to be built and which sets we're going to find on location. They're called practical sets. Making sure all the permissions are going. And then we have more and more meetings that break it down even further. That gun. Who picks that gun? Who picks all of the guns? Well, the prop person assembles, choices, and then we pick it. Who picks the car? Well, the transportation guy comes up with a whole bunch of different cars that fit the character of Walter White. Remember, this is a guy who was brilliant, but completely unsuccessful. So that is probably the worst looking car in America. And with a custom color that was just awful. But we had to paint the car. So, all of these things are choices. Every piece of wardrobe is a choice. Everybody who says a single line is a choice. The stunt people are a choice. And all of those choices have to get made in 8 days prior to the start of production.
Wow.
So that's what we do. And then once we start shooting, we're watching not only that shot, but I'm also on the next episode. Mm-hmm. And once we get to the 3rd episode, I'm not only doing the next episode, I'm wrapping out, making sure that everything is okay and we can come back to wherever we've been, or if anybody's had a problem, I address it. And then looking down the line to future episodes and always trying to stay one step ahead. And at the same time, dealing with whatever issues come up. Did anybody else get sick? Is the weather going to be bad? Do we need to go to a cover set? We didn't finish the day. How are we going to do that? How are we going to fit things in the schedule? There was a scene that was written in the pilot, if you've watched the series, where I went to Vince and I basically said, there is absolutely no way I can fit this into the 14 days. I just can't. It's a full day in itself. And that scene was a gas station being blown up. And Vince finally said, okay, we'll take it out. And then used it in the third episode down.
Okay.
But it was a combination of, kept coming to me and saying, why can't we fit this in? Why, you're the one directing, you want to go that fast? And no, you can only go a certain degree fast.